I shoot, I have to shoot about 8, 10, 12 seconds a day, and that was a big day condensed into a few seconds.
War in the East, experienced doctors have been snapped up by the military.
I did it without moving my lips. Okay, it's hard to ignore what's happened in the world this week. And my wonderful technician over there is just going to find the Trump folder, please. Have you got it? Yeah. It has been an extraordinary week, one way or another. The world has changed, without a doubt. But what always happens in events like this, and with disasters and massacres and things, is suddenly artists come to the fore and start doing wonderful cartoons. I just grabbed a few from the internet last night. I think that's brilliant. Yes, next one. The Joker, I think that's a brilliant one. Trump card, genius. Okay, thanks. There have been, the internet is flooded with cartoons about Trump. Not so many about Hillary, but Trump, because he is such a figure of fun. I don't think the Americans realise what the English connotation of Trump means. Hot, nasty air. Defines it, doesn't it? I'm sorry if there are any Trump supporters here, but I just don't understand them. But the important thing is suddenly artists are making these wonderful cartoons about him. Has anybody seen the parody of the John Lewis advert that's out at the moment? The advert came out 3 days ago, and everybody went, oh, lovely. Also, what they're just giving away, it's not part of Christmas, so there's been a bit of a backlash. But they've also, it appeared last night, somebody has stuck Trump's head on the box in them. So there's Hillary as a little child running out and seeing the wonderful trampoline with the White House on, yeah, I'm going in. And suddenly this dull Trump's face comes in. And that says it all. It says it all in a metaphor. It says it all in a way that politicians don't have the language to say it. And I think, I think this is what we do as animators. You switch on the news, and the news is there to tell you what happens. Animation and art makes sense of it. I think that's what our role as artists is to make sense. And in those cartoons, they're having strong opinions. I think by being an artificial drawing, you have license to say things that you couldn't otherwise say in conversation. You can show what a fool Trump is at that Joker card. But you can't necessarily say it on the news or whatever. And I think, what we do as artists is wasn't that lovely? And breathe. Thank you, Kathy. I think we have license to say things that we can't normally say. And I'm going to talk a lot about this. There was a talk I did the other day, and I spoke about Oscar Wilde. And he, as so often, everything he says is so giddily true. He said, man speaks, basically he said, give a man a mask and he'll tell you the truth. And I thought, oh, that's brilliant. Give a man a drawing of Trump and he'll show you the true Trump. And it's this sort of artificiality that we do as artists that speaks the truth, I think. And I love animation because it is so artificial. We're not dealing with reality at all. And I don't think, I think we would be wasting our time if we spend all our time copying life life does life very well, thank you very much. We have Candy Guard here, and she can get so much recognisable character out of a lively line. It's not realistic, but you recognise the emotion, you recognise the truth of it, the feeling. And I love this artifice. And as animators, we are so artificial. I've seen some really amazing Trump. Where's spitting image when we need it? You know, the world has done awful things this year. How wonderful to have spitting image back. What they would do with Trump, I just don't know. You know, there's one called Newsoids, isn't there?
Yeah.
It doesn't quite have the bitterness and the rawness of spitting image, but you know, by putting opinions in the mouths of something artificial, you can get away with so much, and that's what we do as animators. You know, spitting image, they were quite near the bone at times. Does anybody remember the Queen Mother puppet they had? It was done as Beryl Reid, and she was pissed as a fuck. Well, I don't know if the Queen Mother was ever pissed. Lord forbid that she ever had a gin. But you can't take offence at a puppet. It's an artificial thing. You know, and I'm sure you all experience this release through something artificial. Let's say one word, Facebook. You probably express opinions on Facebook that maybe if you were in conversation you might not express, or observations. You'll feel a bit comfortable, or maybe you have a persona on Facebook that you're a bit more relaxed or a bit flirtier on Facebook or something. Or if you're going out with your mates to the pub, there's a great device, let me buy you a drink, let's talk about it. Or in Coronation Street every night, oh, sit yourself down, have a cup of tea, tell me about it. And it's this sort of, this prop we need, this release, this device, this artificial thing, this contract, that allows you to talk about yourselves. A clown will put on a red nose, and he stops being the real person. He will become a clown, and he can get away with absolutely anything. All sorts of things. You know, drag queens, they put on a persona and become somebody else, and they're freer to express themselves, to be more outrageous. But we need this artificiality to be really honest. And to me, that's why I animate. I'm going to show you a couple of films later where they're about me. They're pure and simple, they're about me, disguised as a metaphor. But it's always been thus. Storytelling, you know, the Greek myths, I don't think they ever believed Zeus actually lived on the top of Mount Olympus in a nice white throne, fluffy clouds and gorgeous handmaidens playing the lyre next to him. It's a nice idea, but I think things like myths are there to make sense of things for us to understand, and to some extent, religion is to, parents tell children stories. Aesop fables, they're a way to show this would be a good way of living. This is good morals. There's a moral here. But it's easy to understand if I put it in the mouth of a tortoise and a hare, rather than saying, oh, father was really slow to know, but whatever. It's easy to understand through something artificial. I guess that's what plays and films are as well. They are so artificial. Does this make sense so far? I love ballet, I love opera, I love theatre. I love the fact that it's a shared experience, it's happening live. Okay, here's the thing. Have any of you been to the ballet? Please go, please go. Does it worry you that you can hear the feet clomping of the ballerinas? No, because a reminder that they're people. You know, the choreography is beautiful, the lighting is beautiful, the costume is beautiful, but part of it is you're aware that it's artificial, and yet they're real people. You know, that ballerina, how is she getting her leg up there? You know, you're aware of the craft, you're aware of the artifice the whole time. And, you know, I've seen some animated ballet, and it never quite, dance on animation never quite works. For some reason it works with puppets, but not with drawings and things, because it takes away the laws of physics sometimes, a drawing, you know, because you can do anything in drawing, you can do anything in CG. With puppets you still have the physics of it. But, you know, I love it when you're aware of the technique and yet you seemingly cross it. Sort of gone off on a tangent here, I'm talking about artificiality. we go all over the place in my talks. Welcome to my strange world. But this is all talking about why I work, what I think animation is. You know, we were talking about this sort of talking through something else. You know, parents sitting at a dinner table with their children, and the mother leans to the child and says, "Will you tell your father he's been a really naughty boy today? Why can't you just tell your husband that he's been a pain?" It's easier to talk through something else. I have a cat, ridiculously named Monteverdi, but those who know me will expect nothing less. And at the end of the day, when I get home tonight, I will sit down with him and I will make sense of my day by talking to him. This external, by the sheer act of having an external device, I can work out my internal thinking. Cups of tea is the same, you know, and as I said, sit down, let's talk about it. And I'm going to go on and talk about Shakespeare now. Shakespeare is probably one of the most observant writers about human nature, but he's also probably one of the most theatrical. His plays are full of these devices that allow people to talk about themselves. And one of my favourite devices in Shakespeare is the fool. We're back to Donald Trump again. The fool. A lot of Shakespeare's plays have this character called the fool. Sometimes he has a name. He's usually attached to somebody, the king. And he's usually attached to the person who's at the centre of the drama. So let's talk about King Lear. Anybody read King Lear or seen King Lear? Thank you, and call it that. King Lear is a man who's made a terrible mistake. He's been impressed by the flattery of his daughters, hollow flattery, and he's divided his kingdom. And the one daughter who said, "Yes, I love you, father, but no more and no less than I should." And he doesn't divide his kingdom up, and he banishes that daughter. And this gets him into terrible, terrible problems. And all the way through, he has this fool who sits by his side, and he is the only one who's allowed to tell the truth. You know, you would think a fool just tells jokes and hits you up with a pig's bladder and everything, you know. But he sits next to King Lear and says, "You fucked that up, didn't you?" Shut up. But the fool is allowed to say that. Because he has a red nose and that's his job, he has license to tell the truth. Okay, that works dramatically, but it also works psychologically, because we get to understand King Lear better, because he can talk to the fool. And what's lovely about the fool, he is, in effect, an invisible friend. Hands up who had invisible friends as children. Thank you. What were they?
Rabbit.
Rabbit. What was its name?
Fluffy.
Imaginative. But did you talk to it?
Yeah, it used to sit on my lap when I was like in school, just sitting under the table.
And you talked to it about your day, or
Yeah, just
or
everything.
Sally over there who's being a right pain.
Yeah.
Look at Sally over there or something, yeah. But you imbued this friend with your thoughts, really. And this is what happens in Shakespeare. He finds these devices that allow the main characters to talk about themselves, to make sense of themselves. I always, this is all relevant to animation. I talk about Mary Poppins a lot. Who's seen the film Mary Poppins? Yeah. It is a masterpiece. The film is called Mary Poppins. It's not called the Banks family making a mess of their life and then when we meet the Banks family, they're in crisis, as all good drama is. It's about crisis. It's about a family that needs healing. Okay, and so the kids who can see what a mess their parents are making of being family, they write this letter and send it up the chimney, and Mary Poppins comes back with the letter. Who is she? Where is she real? What is she? Anyway, she spends 2 hours healing the family, and okay, she has Bert, and it's clear Bert, they have some sort of history, but we want to know about her and her feelings. And how do we do that? How do we know about Mary Poppins' feelings? She can sing them. When words fail, she can sing them, which is again something artificial. But she has this talking umbrella, who is just like the King Lear's fool. And at the very end, the family have been healed and they go off and fly a kite, which is a lovely sort of metaphor of all working together, a nice happy ending. And Mary Poppins watches them go, and she's a bit dewy-eyed, and suddenly the umbrella starts talking. Well, that's gratitude for you, isn't it? You do all this work for that. Shut up, go. And at some points in the films, he speaks the truth. Nobody else sees the umbrella. No one else in King Lear acknowledges the fool. He could be an invisible friend. There's one line that always confuses people. Shakespeare relates the fool to Cordelia at the end, but he disappears. As King Lear starts to see the truth about his terrible situation, and he learns he's realised a mistake, the fool's job is done, and he's gone. Oh, I love that. But was he actually there? What other invisible friends or characters in major Hollywood films are there that have the same purpose as Mary Poppins?
I was just thinking of Tom Hanks when he's on Castaway and he has Wilson.
Yes, yes, thank you. Wilson is exactly that. They had to write in a device so that Tom Hanks could say, oh, I'm fed up or whatever. Wilson is an externalization of his thought. He is a puppet, in effect. He is that cup of tea. He is that device that allows him to talk. How about a short little alien with a finger? E.T.? Does he exist? Well, he's come from somewhere strange, like Mary Poppins has come from the clouds or whatever. E.T. may not exist. He comes, heals the family, he certainly heals the family, and he goes again. I think the mother does see E.T., doesn't she, at the end? She does see and she helps because she's been healed. But any other films like that have this? Yes, yes. Peter Pan. Peter Pan, you've got the Darling family, who again, a family in crisis, and it takes this thing to come and heal the family. It's everywhere. The Nutcracker, the glorious Tchaikovsky ballet, is this girl who is just about to go through puberty, and this Nutcracker comes alive, and basically, through the Nutcracker doll, she starts to make sense of, oh, I'm becoming a woman. I've got to stop playing with toys, and I've just grown up. But it's this externalization, and we always have to find this metaphor. Wizard of Oz, what happens there? She goes to Oz. Does Oz exist? At the end, it seems to have all been a dream. But she's learned from it. She's learned, and she looks at her Auntie Em and Uncle Henry and the cowhands and thinks, you were in, and she's suddenly become aware of, she's learned something. So, you know, the basic sort of thing of drama, I guess, is we need to find a device that shows us ourselves. Alice going down the rabbit hole. Who knows what Alice is about? But it has a wonderful logic to it, Alice. It does make sense. It's Alice trying to make sense. Again, I think it's Alice going through puberty, trying to make sense of the nonsense that parents talk, the nonsense of the world around her. If you're ever stuck for a story, turn to Alice in Wonderland. People say, how do you think of stories? That is never my problem. It's getting them made is the problem. But Alice has a line of it that I think that is how to find the story. She says she sees the Cheshire Cat sitting up in a tree and it disappears and just a smile remains. And she says, how curious. I have often seen a cat without a smile. But I have never seen a smile without a cat. That is perfect logic. Why didn't I think of that? And I think that's how you find a story, just by this change of perspective. And going back to Shakespeare, he has characters changing sex in Twelfth Night and many, many plays. He has a boy actor who's 15 playing Viola, who's a girl who's been shipwrecked. And to get work and to survive, she dresses up as a man. And then at one point she says to the man she's falling in love with, if I were a girl, how would you woo me? But I'm not a girl. You know. But yeah, so it's a boy playing a girl, playing a boy playing a girl. I love it. And she gets to understand how men work and everything. Tootsie, you know. Mrs. Doubtfire, Robin Williams in Mrs. Doubtfire is a terrible parent, but he invents this persona, this sudden, strange change of perspective, and he can see what a terrible father he was. And there's often these ways people love the fake thing more than the real thing. Mrs. Doubtfire is gorgeous, and you know, but he has to lose her somehow. It's a shame they were going to make a sequel to Mrs. Doubtfire, but sadly he died last year, but it's a great loss. It is a masterpiece, that film, Mrs. Doubtfire. Has anybody not seen it? Please watch it. It's brilliant. And he makes a better woman than Dustin Hoffman does in Tootsie. But the best gender reversal film I think you should ever see is Some Like It Hot with Marilyn. I don't care what they said about Marilyn not being professional or anything. She delivered in that film, and she is gorgeous. And it's a story of two jazz musicians who witness a murder, and they have to jump on a train to escape the mafia, and they jump on a train with all these female musicians. So they dress up as musicians, and they learn about themselves. It's a beautiful Some Like It Hot. And it has a message at the end when it all gets very confused and people fall in love with the wrong woman, man, whatever, and the last line is, you know, it's fine. And Shakespeare, Twelfth Night, where there are elements of, in this gender confusion of, it's crossed what is normal, and the subtitle of Twelfth Night is what you will. It doesn't matter. As long as you don't hurt people, what you will. So the point of all this, I think, is we need to find this artificial change of perspective that can speak the truth. Superheroes, Facebook, whatever. And I think this is where animation comes in. It is so artificial, and you can do something with a gesture that's not realistic, but oh, it can mean so much. Mime is an extraordinary thing. Mime is not realistic, and yet a good mime, you can see the glass wall. You believe them. I think the word to use when we're dealing with animation of the arts is not realistic, but credible. Everything, the emotions are credible, the story is credible. That's what we have to think about. But, you know, when I'm talking about storytelling, why do we tell stories? Why? Anybody, who tells stories here? Do you tell stories? Why do you tell stories?
Because they're fun.
They're fun?
Yeah.
Okay. Why are they fun? They are fun. Yeah, I'll grant you that. Yeah.
I think we tell stories to sort of understand our lives.
Yes.
A way of interpreting, understanding.
Interpreting. No, we don't relay it, minute by minute. We tell the good bits, don't we? We tell the interesting bits.
It's when making a connection as well, isn't it?
And also to say, I'm here. I was here, basically. I've got a voice. And, some people, for whatever reasons of gender, society, history, culture, have not been allowed to speak. And, the anger with Trump this week, people are trying to express their anger and frustration. They're doing it through violence, unfortunately. But some are doing it through art and witty things, but they want to be heard. And the cave paintings back in France from many thousands of years ago of bison running along, almost like a storyboard. At the end of it, at the end of these spectacular cave drawings, are dozens of handprints. Oh, that's lovely that these are the real hands of the people telling their stories as though they're saying, this is me, this is how I spend my day hunting bison. And if you look at the cave drawings, you can see them running with spears, and there's bison, and then there's a fire, and they're cooking bison. And then there are these handprints, and it's saying, I have a voice, I had a life, I was here. Does anybody know the very famous painting, The Betrothal of Arnold Feeney, by Johannes van Eyck? It's 1431. It's the first recorded oil painting, and it is of a couple standing right there, and she looks pregnant, and there's a dog, and there are oranges on the windowsill, there's glass, and there's a beautiful polished metal thing. And people have argued for decades, of centuries, what does this painting mean? It's obviously recording a marriage. But what do the oranges mean on the windowsill? Does it mean fertility? Is she pregnant? Whatever. What is the dog? Is that signifying children? Whatever. And I think we've come to the conclusion that this new technique of oil painting was discovered. And basically, it was like a showreel. He said, I can do floorboards. I can do fur. I can do shiny glass. And he has the audacity at the back to sign it. There's a mirror of where the artist is painting in the mirror. So again, he's saying it's not real because it's, I'm in the mirror, I'm the artist. But he has the audacity to write in very florid lettering, Johannes van Eyck, Fuit Hing. Jan van Eyck was here. You'll see that in the underpass down in Glasgow or something. It's his calling card, or this is me, this is what I do, I exist. And I think, we want to share our experience as best we can. And animation is a particularly fantastic way of doing it. I love it that most animation still involves the hand. It's very personal, it's very intimate. I love drawings like Candy's that you can see the hand is still there. I love that lines live. Rotoscoping, I've suddenly gone on to rotoscoping, it came into my head. As a child, and I was a very awkward child, my mum took me to see Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The students come and said, I'll get my agent to talk to you. No, come on, this is what reality is. It's 10 seconds a day. And we start at 9 o'clock. That's how we work. Do you want a 2-year job? And I love TV series because you get to work with a group of characters in 100 different scenarios. In most of my films, they're dead after 11 minutes. And I love them, I fall in love with my characters, but come the credits. They're dead. They usually sing, have sex, and they're dead. That's the Channel 4 with me. But so it's lovely to work with characters over 2 years or so, and it's also good discipline. I love the camaraderie. Who's seen The Sound of Music? Way. There's a scene where Maria is trying to befriend the children who are slightly estranged from their rather difficult father, and they've had a wonderful day out, and to impress the father's new wife-to-be, they put on a puppet show. Puppets, something artificial. What's going to happen? And they put on this puppet show, and they have such fun doing it. They're liberated by it. Normally they're restricted to their life is run by whistles, and they have to march in time and everything. And here they are putting on a puppet show that has music and dancing and puppets and costume, and they're being creative and they're working as a family, and Maria is having fun, everybody's having fun. And the Baron, the father, watches the show, and he suddenly realizes, I've never seen my children like that. They're children, they're families, they're being creative. And the whole film changes. He suddenly, when I saw that when I was 9 in the cinema, apart from falling in love with Julie Andrews, as everybody must have done, I suddenly thought, oh my God, that's clever, that something so artificial, using music and sound and laughter, and something so fake, can change. But I love that they're all working together. I love the camaraderie of a film studio and being creative together. In animation, it's obviously very fragmented, but that's what it is. People often ask me, how do you have the patience for animation? And I say, well, a diver, he's going to get wet. End of story. It's part of it. Being patient is part of it. Yes, it's boring sometimes, and at the end of the day, you produce 8 seconds, you project it. What a great 8 seconds that is. You have to think small. 8 seconds a day, that's great. So The Sound of Music sort of changed my life really. I thought, I want to do that. I want to have fun with people being creative. I've been doing it for 40 years. But it's very interesting that a 4-minute scene in a film can change the whole story. Hamlet, Shakespeare does it with Hamlet, where Hamlet's father has been killed by father's brother, and Hamlet can't prove it. A ghost told him, something artificial told him. So what he does, what does he do? He puts on a play of a similar story, and the would-be murderer is watching it, and how he reacts is gives game away. So again, something artificial. Hamlet can't go up to his uncle and say, "You killed my father." That would never happen. But by putting on a play, the play is the thing wherein to catch the conscience of the king. Brilliant. Julie Andrews and puppets. That's how to show a father what his children are. So bear that in mind through when you're making an animated film. Find Jiminy Cricket to Pinocchio, that little thing that can reveal. So having said that, I'm now going to show you Plume, which was made in France about 5 years ago. I think what I'd like to do is just show this film with no warning. And then just go through it, sort of scene by scene, and say what it says about me, and say what I tried to do with it. Has anybody seen Plume? Have you seen? Where did you see it? Okay. It looks quite good on the big screen. It's a nasty film. With that, are we okay to show?
Yeah.